Good afternoon, good evening. This is Darren and Julia with the Mental Minute Baltimore. Good evening, Julia.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, and this is something that me and Julia started at the beginning of the pandemic. Julia is a licensed professional that specializes in trauma and addiction, and she recently published her first books, Crossing Paths, the intersection between trauma and addiction. She has her own practice that's fully staffed, that is here for the community. And we get questions in every day, Julia, and I had a very interesting question come in I wanted to ask you. The question that came in, do people's moods change as the seasons change?
I think this is a wonderful question, and it's great for this time of year. But yes, people's moods do change during different times of seasons. And so one thing that has been recently added to the DSM-5, which is what clinicians use for diagnostic reasons, is the seasonal affective disorder. And what that means is sometimes, not everybody, but a few, like about 5% of people experience a huge shift in mood as the seasons change and the sun sets earlier. It's known as winter depression. Sometimes we get the winter blues depending on the level of depression, but when people don't see the sunlight or aren't able to get out as much, it definitely affects our moods and our ability. And so we notice that during the winter time, our moods tend to be lower. And there's a lot of different stated hypotheses, but there is no real reason. A lot of people believe it's just the failure of the sun because of vitamin D deficiency. And so there's different types of treatment people can do with this, such as light therapy. So I don't know if you've ever seen on Amazon, they sell those light fixtures. You can kind of have them shine on you. If it's very severe, there are antidepressants or medications. Some people actually end up taking vitamin D. And then the last thing, which I really recommend, because this is good for everybody, is just kind of spending time outside when you can. If you get a 10-minute break during the day, go outside and walk and let the sun hit you and do what it does naturally.
Thank you very much for that. And I did want to ask, I remember I had a coworker one time that said that during the winter season, because she would like to go outside a lot, we didn't have windows in the office, and she would print fake windows, like in sceneries out throughout the office to have it. Now, let me ask you, so is it important, I guess, as seasons change? I mean, taking walks is important, but to maybe get out and just maybe take a brief walk or something like that?
It does become important because the sun is a natural healer. It offers vitamin D for us. And for those of us that suffer from vitamin D deficiency, like I do, it becomes extra important to get that boost of energy when we can. And so it offers this natural healing for just going out and walking, or even sitting in the sun. If you don't have a lot of time to walk, just going outside and kind of being in the sun.
Thank you. And then would you be able to maybe offer maybe one or two suggestions or examples that maybe the seasons might be affecting you?
Sure. So I get a little bit more tired. I get a little bit more irritable. And so some people get more anxiety, more grouchy or aggressive during the seasonal change because, again, we go off of the sun and the sunlight. And when we're in working all the time, we don't always get to see the sun. And so it's harder to have those like, yay, everything's going to be right spirits. But there's a lot of different causes. If it gets so severe where you have a hard time getting out of bed, that's when you need to kind of seek additional help. Most of the time we can manage by changing our routine a little bit.
Thank you very much for that. And to anybody out there's listening, and remember, we always say this every week, it's okay not to be okay. And maybe if you are going through a couple things as the seasons are changing, then like Julie had mentioned, that's might be normal. But as she did say, if it's maybe hard getting out of bed or maybe just a little bit more in depth in that, reach out for some help. And, we do this for the community. And like I mentioned, Julia has her own practice, fully staffed. She does offer free consultation. So please reach out to Julia or myself. If we can't help you, we'll lead you in the right direction. Also, we have resources on our Facebook page. And like Julia, like always, just thank you so much. You take time away from your friends, family, your writing and everything just to do this with me for the community. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Sounds good.